Well, welcome to the first episode of the GeekPunk PodCast. I am Dan Taylor, a self-proclaimed geek punk. Now, this is my first attempt at podcasting, so hopefully you will bear with me through the first few painful episodes as I learn the ins and outs of recording, as well as becoming more comfortable speaking into this mic and interviewing potentially more entertaining guests than me, your host. It's not going to sound pretty from the get-go, probably won't for a while, but I am willing to stick to it if you're willing to come back and hear me out. Exactly what is a geek punk? My definition is a knowledgeable and obsessive enthusiast characterized by a nonconformist attitude and the promotion of individual freedom. A lot of big words for somebody who's not really comfortable speaking into a mic. Now, two supposed classic characteristics of geeks are a social ineptitude and obsessive devotion to some pursuit. Are the caring about something more than they are to society or social advancement. Now, these somethings can be comics, movies, science fiction, fantasy, role-playing games, or all of the above. Supposedly, geeks are neither social climbers nor rebels because we're indifferent or oblivious to how the world sees us. On the punk side of the coin, punk-related ideologies often embrace individual freedom and anti-establishment views. Throw in a do-it-yourself ethic, nonconformity, and not selling out. Alright, I admit I would be willing to sell out. But as a self-publisher, I've definitely got a do-it-yourself ethic. Being a geek punk apparently means being a non-rebellious, anti-establishment, obsessive nonconformist. A dichotomy that digs nerdom. Now, what will be covered on the Geek Punk Podcast? Topics like comics, movies, science fiction, fantasy, role-playing games, etc. Some episodes might just be me flying solo and rambling on about the latest happenings in fandom culture. Hopefully that won't be the norm. With any luck, I hope to have a guest on most episodes, so I'm not the only geek rambling on. So, without any further ado, let's give this podcasting thing a try. Well, for the first episode of the Geek Punk Podcast, I have asked my partner in comic crime, my cohort, so to speak, in our coup of the comic book industry, Hero Happy Hour co-creator and artist Chris Fason. How are you today, Chris?
Doing all right, man. How are you?
Worried as hell that we're not going to be able to pull this off right. It's going to be basically a podcast full of ums and ahs.
That's probably accurate.
All right, so like I introduced you earlier as the Hero Happy Hour co-creator and artist, we first met pretty much putting that book together.
Yeah, way back in 2001, I put an ad on digital webbing looking for a writer because I can't write for shit. And
some people say that I can't either.
It's debatable, but I got several people, of course, responded. You were one of them, and you sent me, I don't even know what you sent me that I said, I don't know if I like that one, but you sent me several things, and, this was 2001, I'm still way behind the times technologically. I didn't have a scanner, so I sent you artwork through the mail.
Yeah, we did everything through snail mail, and, that first issue took almost a year for us to put together because we were doing it that way, and that was just after I had attended Comic-Con, and I was at a panel about how to break into the comic book industry, and the basic information that I took out of it was you have to create a comic book. So I had promised myself that I would have a finished comic book before I went back to Comic-Con. So since I can't draw, I was on digital webbing as well, and when I found that you were looking for a writer, not knowing who you are at all, hit you up, did send you a lot of stuff. You wanted to do a crime comic book, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I had this. I've been reading a whole bunch of Ed McBain and was doing really interested in like the police procedural type stuff, and of course it was on the air with all the TV shows that are like that. But I wanted to see a comic that was like that, and I still have ideas for that, but I don't know if I'll be able to flesh them out. We'll see.
I think I wrote just from reading what that you wanted to do that. I wrote some sort of horrible crime comic idea and pitched that to you.
You put like a bullpen piece for like some detectives sitting in their police bullpen, and
okay.
I don't think I drew anything for it. I may have done some sketching,
You
but
were
we never
wise.
finished it out.
You were wise to shoot it down. But you said throw me what else you got, and I sent you a script that I'd wrote for a short movie that I had an idea of doing. I was a film major at Long Beach State, and I was kind of itching to do a movie, and I wanted to do a little comedy about superheroes, but I knew I wouldn't have any budget, so I decided I'd place it in a bar, a neighborhood bar that I had frequented, and to use as a location. And being at a bar, all the superheroes would be behind the bar, so I wouldn't have to worry about costumes from the waist down.
Yeah.
And I sent you the short film script as it was.
Yeah, and I worked directly from that. It made me laugh. I thought it was clever and different. So I was like, I'm just going to do this because it seemed fun. And, yeah, we went straight from the film script. No editing into comic book script format. And I don't think the first 3 books or so I think they were all written that way. They weren't written, page 1, page 2. It was basically, written as scenes, right?
Yes, artist, I let you pretty much decide when the page breaks would be, at least with the first one, most definitely. I think I may have put a little input on the other ones. But yeah, you just completely broke up that how you thought it would be, and I think we had a whopping 48-page first issue.
Yes, it was a pretty big first issue, and then I think we got it down to 32 pages after that on the regular until we did the super special.
Yeah, and back then it was called Superhero Happy Hour.
Yes, we got to get to that.
So we did. Well, let's talk about the first issue still. So the first issue, Superhero Happy Hour, we finished it. I paid for the printing on credit cards. We put everything. Neither one of us had made a comic book before.
No, we were like the Kevin Smith of comic books.
We had no idea what we were doing, and I think it officially premiered at Mid-Ohio Con, right?
Yeah, that was the first time we met in person.
Yeah, it was. We met at the Columbus airport. You had landed like a half hour or an hour before I did, and I remember coming down the escalator, and it was like a total rom-com, romantic comedy, as I was coming down the escalator and seeing my man of my dreams for the first time.
That's right. If we only had like a field of wheat to run through, it would have been so much better.
Luckily, we hit it off okay.
Yeah, because we had to share a room. We didn't have to, but we elected to share a room.
Yeah, cutting costs. And after a couple other cons, we stopped sharing rooms.
Oh, yes. We couldn't handle scoring, I think.
Not that we could afford it or anything, or huge success. But, yeah, we premiered it at Mid-Ohio Con, and people tended to like it. It was all right. And the next step was taking it to San Diego.
Yeah, you did San Diego the following year because Mid-Ohio was in November around Thanksgiving. I guess it still is. I'm not sure.
I think it's a Wizard, Ohio, Columbus show or something.
Oh, is that what it is? I know they sold it and it had gone from there. So yeah, you did San Diego the following year solo. I guess just like a backpack full of books.
Exactly. I went up to every pro publisher, editor, artist, writer I could find, just handing my book over, saying, "Here, this is our first attempt. Hope you like it," and would walk on. And luckily for us, we had the pleasure of having a Scott Morse cover.
Yeah, that was really cool how that came together because when you had emailed me saying, "What about Scott Morse doing the cover?" and I was like, "Yeah, I dig Scott." And then like an hour later, it was like, "Well, here it is."
Yeah. Again, this was a time where a lot of us and a lot of other people that we know in the industry we were all hanging on the Bendis boards way back in the day.
Yep.
Scott Morse was on there as well, and he had done Little Gray Man,
Magic Pickle.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Magic Pickle was done yet, but at that time he was working on a 4-issue miniseries of Elektra for Marvel. And
yes,
I just happened to email him saying, "Hey, Scott, you don't know me from Adam, but we would like you to do our cover for our very first ever comic book. Are you game?" He emailed me right back within 5 minutes saying, yeah, he hadn't heard back from Marvel on what kind of cover they wanted for their book, and he had a board already taped up, ready to go. So he said, let's do it. And, yeah, so we had a Scott Morse cover.
which was awesome.
Which I still have the original hanging here in my office at home.
God, I'd hope so.
And so I showed off the issue 1 Superhero Happy Hour to people, and one of the people I walked up to was like a director of purchasing at Diamond at their booth saying, hey, how do I get our book into Diamond, the distributor for comic books? And he said, hey, nice Scott Morse cover, flipped through it, handed me his card, said, give me a call. If you don't hear back from somebody within a month, make sure you call me and we'll get you in.
Cool.
And that's how I did it. I didn't hear back from Diamond, so I called him. Within minutes again, the phone rang, and he got somebody that in our book was in there, and we were like a pick of the month, right?
Yeah, the little cool cat emblem, I think, was next to it, something like that.
Like an editor's pick for a very first issue, and we did all right by it. I think we made the top 200, 300.
Yeah.
And
that first issue, yeah.
So we did, how many superhero happy hours? 4?
4 under the superhero, and number 5 was just straight up hero happy hour.
Because one day after, I think it was a day I even had some sort of a meeting about the possibility of a superhero happy hour animated show or along those lines. Because it had gotten us a manager at the time, and they were
we fumbled through that for a little while.
Yeah, we did
trying to get in Hollywood.
Did the Hollywood game for a while, and a lot of meetings. I discovered everybody, you get bottled water at every meeting. So there are 4 meetings in one day. I was well hydrated.
Oh, that was good.
But so I came back and home, and there was an express delivery package from New York, and I thought, okay, Chris and I'd hit the big time. New York wants
they found us.
They found us. They want Superhero Happy Hour. Opened it up, and it turned out it was from Marvel and DC, or at least their attorneys, and they were not happy with the title of our book.
No, not at all.
Apparently they owned and still own the copyright, or no, the trademark, excuse me, the trademark on the term superhero. So,
and all variations thereof.
That ended up getting us an entertainment lawyer to solve some things, and quick, easy fix was we dropped super.
Yep. It was either that or drop, $50,000 just to go to court?
Exactly. And every now and then I still get a phone call from somebody or an email from somebody who is A, either has superhero on the title of their comic and they want to know if I'll help them fight it, or B, a newspaper or magazine is doing a story on the trademark of the term superhero and they want my advice. And at this point I'm just like, screw it, let them have it, come up with something different.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that it still gets, mentioned here and there. It was, because it happened, and it was online and stuff, and then 3 years later, it was up on, G4 or something. And I was like, well, they're just bringing us out of the woodwork again. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, and it's sort of sad that they only mention our book and it gets when somebody's fighting lawyers about the titles using superhero, but hey, we'll take whatever press we can get.
There's no such thing as bad press.
And so we did issue 5 Hero Happy Hour, Dave Crossland cover.
Beautiful Dave Crossland cover.
And then it's about the time I got a job with IDW Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that book, Hero Happy Hour, was put on the back burner for a while. We had published 5 individual issues, an
anthology.
Yeah, super special anthology, which we got a lot of talented people to basically belly up to the bar and offer their own take, short stories of featuring our characters or their characters all within our bar. And that was a great experiment that hopefully we'll do again someday.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was one of my favorite things to show off. Like, look at all these people who played in our little playground.
Yeah, there was... I would start naming off some of the people, but I would hate to forget anybody, so...
Yeah, exactly.
We'll talk about that another time. And then while I was at IDW, we did a little book with our sort of a double issue. I think it was 64 pages altogether, called the Super Deluxe Hero Happy Hour.
Yes.
The Lost Episode, The Fall and Rise of Kingfish.
Yes.
Where we basically introduced our Aquaman character and killed him off within the first few pages.
Yeah. We know how to bring them in, don't we?
That book didn't do too well.
Not really. In fact, IDW probably still has a whole bunch of them stashed away if they haven't used them for kindling.
No, they offered to let me buy them real cheap, and I couldn't afford to even buy those, so I think they've gone away.
I remember one offer they gave us, and I was like, I'd love to be able to afford them, but I just can't.
So they were trashed, probably deservingly so. And so after that, we ended up doing HeroHappyHour.com.
Yes. So we've run it online for 2 or 3 years now, I guess, right?
Closer to 4, I think, now, maybe.
Yeah, well, we've had a bunch of original content, probably about as many pages on there as we've had in print, or pretty close to it, I imagine.
Yeah, we haven't updated in a while because we were running the
Kickstarter.
Yeah, the Hero Happy Hour on the Rock story arc, where we did the first half, in which we ended up running Kickstarter to finish it. But yeah, we had original content. We also had some talent do some guest comic strips for us as well. We did some holiday specials. We did a spin-off featuring the character Shark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing that, and we'll return to that again. We've had different artists. Like I said, Chris sat out a couple times.
Mm-hmm. Gavin Spence.
Gavin Spence did one. Grant Perkins did stint, and so that went along well. And then we did a Hero Happy Hour on the Rocks, which was going, and we won't get into this, but it was going to be a book with another publisher. Things fell through, so we decided to self-publish it. Offered up on the website the first half, 40 pages of an 80-page story. And then for the second half, we wanted to return GeekPunk, and after experiences of self-publishing back in the days, working with other publishers, we've decided that we just needed to... This was Hero Happy Hour is a labor of love that just needed to be self-published.
Yeah, it's a do-it-yourself thing.
And so yes, we went to Kickstarter, and we managed to get the funding to put together about an 84. We might throw in a couple extra pages of content, so maybe 92 or 88, 96 pages of content. But an 80-page story, Hero Happy Hour on the Rocks, the first time, other than a short story that appeared in digital webbing, but the first time it's Hero Happy Hours in full color.
Yes. Thanks to the lovely and talented Christopher Barker.
Yes. Hopefully, as he listens to this podcast, he's busy coloring a few pages.
Yes, I was coloring some today to kind of help buffer him a bit so we can get this thing to the printer as soon as possible. But I've discovered I am a terrible colorist. But still.
Again, thanks to everybody who contributed to the Kickstarter.
Yes, gosh, so many. It's kind of overwhelming when you see the love people have for something we've done. You know, we of course we love it. We've been doing it for over a decade, and then to actually I was at a point about 4 days before the Kickstarter was over. It was like, we're not gonna make it. And I even drew a picture for our failure.
It's a very beautiful, touching picture that I'm trying to figure out some way, somehow, to release it in a proper way. But it's sad, so I'm holding on to it. Sad. But it's a gorgeous, gorgeous picture.
As far as my art goes.
So, behind the scenes on the Kickstarter, they are tough to run. They are nerve-wracking. I'd recommend, if anybody want to do a Kickstarter, you definitely do your homework before you start it.
Yeah.
Figure out every cost down to the pennies. Remember taxes, stuff like that. On my end right now, administrating the back end of the Kickstarter now, having successfully funded, I've gotten most of the incentives have been produced. They're all done. They're sitting in a nice big box under my desk. I'm still waiting on a few of them to come in, but we're ahead of schedule on that, and we're still pretty much ahead of schedule on the printing of the book for our promised release window of February.
Yes.
And then we will also have physical copies of that book available for sale, probably on the GeekPunk website and through other means at conventions and such. The Hero Happy Hour on the Rocks trade paperback. For those of you that didn't jump in on the Kickstarter, not a problem. We love anybody who picks it up, no matter when or how.
Exactly.
It'll be available digitally as well, and then we'll also continue the story for free after everybody gets their books. So in February, that On the Rock story arc will pick up again on the HeroHappyHour.com website.
Yeah, if anybody has any filler content that they'd like us to put up on the website between now and then to give us a break, that would be great while we concentrate on getting this book finished.
Yeah, we love when other artists, writers, and comic creators want to play in the Hero Happy Hour sandbox.
Yes.
And so, other than that book, I guess Chris and I have already started to talk about possibilities of future Hero Happy Hour.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are familiar with Hero Happy Hour, you'll know that a lot of the stuff that we do, let's just say, pokes fun at comic book tropes and the archetypes and stereotypes of characters in comic books. And that includes stories and
so original.
yeah, it's basically it's yeah, parody is a lazy man's way of writing. But and so along those lines, our next Hero Happy Hour story, we'll probably do it the same way again, like a maybe not as big as an 80-page story. We're looking at it as a smaller issue. But we're definitely going to publish it again in traditional means. Mm-hmm. Will it mean a Kickstarter again? We don't know at this time, but we're not here to shill for a Kickstarter at this point. So.
No, but it's a fun way to, I think, you entice people with part of the story, and then if they really want it, well, it's available to be bought that way, and there's also print on demand. We could do that as well. I just hate the pricing structure, unless it's gotten better. I haven't looked lately, but it seemed like it was always, you wanted it to be worth the buyer's while, and still be able to get paid.
What pay? What does this pay you speak of?
Oh, I have no idea. It's a new concept I'm working on.
So with the slew of superhero-related movies and TV shows, there's plenty of material to poke fun at, in which we will be doing in future Hero Happy Hour adventures. So we're going to pretty much wrap up our first attempt at the GeekPunk podcast. But before we go, we did want to mention that we received horrible news today, the passing of Jeremy Dale.
Yeah. I got to spend several free comic book days and con. I got to sit next to him at conventions, and he's such a sweet and funny and intelligent guy and crazy talented. He was one of those guys that, like, he should have been working for DC or Marvel, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I don't know, I just, my heart goes out to his wife and his family and her family, and I know it's really hard on them right now. And
yeah, I had the pleasure of knowing him, being working in the industry and as a self-publishing and as a creator of comic books. And no convention I went to was complete without stopping by his table and sharing some laughs and talking about dream projects we both want to do. And he did pretty well with Skyward. It's a great, fun book. We would often talk about, fun fantasy stories that needed to be done. And there's a piece of artwork that he did. He and I were going to do something with Scout from Hero Happy Hour that I've got to dig up somewhere.
If the About Scout Twitter, I guess it's still there. I mean, I haven't signed into it forever. I ran that for a little while and terribly. But if you look on the picture of that, it's got Scout, with the camera, but in the background there's a Jim on the Holograms poster that is Jeremy's artwork. I asked him if I could use it. He's like, "Yeah, dude, that's gonna be funny."
So yeah,
Scout
so it's I was floored to hear about that today. And again, heart goes out to Kelly and her family and his family and Dog Kirby. He's definitely going to be missed, both as a talent and both as a great guy. He was one of the good guys.
He really was.
All right, Chris. Well, thanks for joining me on this experiment for the first episode of the GeekPunk podcast.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again. Hopefully better, with less repeating myself.
Yeah, we'll see if this one's even released. We'll sign off now, and then I will start editing and see how many ums and ahs I can take out.
Sounds good, man.
All right, thanks,
well,
Chris.
It's good talking to you. Take care.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.